The vast emptiness of space stretched out before the Galactic Command Patrol ship, Starfire. Captain HFY stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the large viewing screen. The ship had been on a routine patrol of the outer sectors for weeks, and boredom had started to set in among the crew. Another quiet day, HFY muttered to himself, running a hand through his short black hair. Just then, a loud beep from the sensor station broke the silence. Officer Minji's fingers flew across her console as she called out, "Captain. Unknown vessel detected at coordinates 27 to 3815. HFY's back straightened as he barked out orders. On screen. Full sensor sweep. The viewing screen flickered to life, showing a sleek, dark ship against the backdrop of stars. Its design was unlike anything they had ever seen before. The ship's hull was smooth and angular, with no visible weapons or propulsion systems. "What is that?" HFY whispered, his eyes wide with wonder and a hint of fear. Minji's voice was filled with confusion as she reported, "Sir, our sensors are having trouble penetrating the ship's hull. It's like nothing we've ever encountered before." HFY turned to his first officer, Commander Sumho. "Any ideas?" Sumho shook his head, his face a mask of concentration. "It doesn't match any known designs in our database, sir. It's not Zarkonian, Vexlar, or any other species we've encountered." The captain's mind raced. In all his years of service, he had never come across an unknown ship in this sector. The area was supposed to be uninhabited, save for a few primitive species that hadn't even achieved spaceflight yet. "Hail them," HFY ordered, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. Communications Officer Sung Min nodded and sent out the standard greeting in multiple languages. Seconds ticked by with no response. Suddenly, the unknown ship began to move. Its movements were smooth and precise, unlike the clunky maneuvers of most spacecraft they were used to seeing. "Sir, they're heading straight for us," Minji called out, her voice rising in pitch. HFY's hand instinctively moved towards the weapons console. "Shields up. Prepare tow." He was cut off as Sung Min shouted, "Captain, we're receiving a transmission." The bridge fell silent as Sung Min put the message through the speakers. To everyone's shock, a clear, calm voice spoke in perfect galactic standard. "Greetings, Galactic Command Vessel. This is Captain Yunji of the Earth ship Thunderbolt. We come in peace and request permission to approach." HFY's jaw dropped. Earth. That tiny blue planet in the Sol system. The one they had dismissed as a backwater world filled with primitives who could barely leave their own atmosphere. It can't be," Sumho muttered, voicing the disbelief that filled the bridge. HFY took a deep breath, steadying himself. He had been trained for first contact situations, but this was beyond anything he had ever imagined. With a nod to Sung Min, he responded, "This is Captain HFY of the Galactic Command Ship Starfire. We acknowledge your greeting, Earth ship Thunderbolt. Permission to approach granted." As the Thunderbolt drew closer, the Starfire's sensors finally managed to get a clearer reading. The data that scrolled across the screens left the crew in awe. "Captain," Minji reported, her voice filled with disbelief. "The Earth ship, it's a battleship, and its technology. It's far beyond our own." HFY stared at the approaching vessel, its size and power becoming more apparent with each passing moment. The humans, a species they had written off as insignificant, had not only achieved interstellar travel, but had done so with technology that surpassed their own. As the reality of the situation sank in, HFY realized that this encounter would change everything. The balance of power in the galaxy, the assumptions they had held for centuries, all of it was about to be turned on its head. With a mix of fear and excitement, he turned to his crew. "Prepare for contact. It seems we have a lot to learn about our new friends." As the Thunderbolt came to a stop alongside the Starfire, its massive form dwarfing the Galactic Command ship, HFY couldn't help but wonder what other surprises the humans had in store for them. One thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. The bridge of the Starfire was tense as Captain HFY prepared to make first contact with the human ship. He nodded to Sung Min, the communications officer, who opened a channel. "This is Captain HFY of the Galactic Command Ship Starfire. We welcome you to this sector, Earth Ship Thunderbolt." There was a moment of silence before the reply came through. "Thank you, Captain HFY. This is Captain Yunji of the Thunderbolt. We're pleased to make your acquaintance." HFY was struck by how calm and confident the human captain sounded. He had expected primitive beings, not this level of poise. "Captain Yunji, if I may ask, what brings you to this part of the galaxy?" HFY asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Exploration, Captain HFY. Humanity has recently developed faster than light travel, and we're eager to meet our galactic neighbors," Yunji replied. The bridge crew of the Starfire exchanged shocked glances. Faster than light travel was supposed to be centuries beyond Earth's capabilities. HFY cleared his throat. "I see. Well, you've certainly come a long way. Perhaps we could arrange a meeting to discuss your journey and share information." "We'd be delighted," Yunji responded. "Would you like to come aboard the Thunderbolt? We have excellent facilities for diplomatic meetings." HFY hesitated. Boarding an unknown ship was risky, but the opportunity to see human technology up close was too good to pass up. "That would be acceptable. I'll bring a small team with me, if that's all right," he said. "Of course. We'll prepare a docking bay for your shuttle. Looking forward to meeting you in person, Captain HFY." As the communication ended, the bridge erupted into excited chatter. HFY turned to his first officer, Sung Ho. "Prepare a team. We'll need our best engineer and diplomat. And make sure everyone is armed, just in case." Sung Ho nodded and left to make the arrangements. HFY stared at the massive human ship on the view screen, his mind racing with questions. An hour later, HFY found himself in a shuttle with engineer Yun Seo and diplomat Ta Hyun, approaching the Thunderbolt. As they drew closer, the true size of the human ship became apparent. It's enormous," Yun Seo whispered, her eyes wide. "How did they build something like this without us noticing?" Ta Hyun shook his head in disbelief. "We've clearly underestimated them. This changes everything." The shuttle entered a vast docking bay, smoothly settling onto the deck. As the doors opened, HFY took a deep breath and stepped out. They were greeted by a group of humans, led by a tall woman with short black hair and a commanding presence. She stepped forward with a smile. "Welcome aboard the Thunderbolt. I'm Captain Yunji. It's a pleasure to meet you in person, Captain HFY." HFY bowed slightly, following what he knew of human customs. "The pleasure is ours, Captain Yunji. Allow me to introduce Engineer Yun Seo and Diplomat Ta Hyun." As they exchanged greetings, HFY couldn't help but notice the advanced technology surrounding them. The docking bay alone was more advanced than anything he had seen on galactic command ships. "Your ship is most impressive, Captain Yunji," Ta Hyun said, his diplomatic training kicking in. "We're very interested in learning more about your people and your technology." Yunji smiled. "Of course. We're equally interested in learning about the Galactic Command. Shall we move to a more comfortable location for our discussions?" As they walked through the ship's corridors, Yun Seo's eyes darted everywhere, taking in the sleek design and advanced systems. "Captain Yunji, if I may ask, how long has Earth been capable of interstellar travel?" she asked. "We achieved our first faster-than-light flight about 5 years ago," Yunji replied casually. "This ship, the Thunderbolt, is our latest design, launched just 6 months ago." The Galactic Command Team exchanged shocked glances. 5 years. It had taken other species centuries to go from their first space flight to faster-than-light travel. They entered a large, comfortable meeting room with a view of space. As they settled into their seats, HFY felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. He was about to learn just how much they had underestimated humanity. "Now then," Yunji said, leaning forward with a friendly smile, "where shall we begin?" As the meeting started, Jaehua couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter would change the course of galactic history. The humans, it seemed, were full of surprises, and he had a feeling they were only scratching the surface. Captain Jaehua sat across from Captain Yunji in the Thunderbolt's meeting room. The view of space through the large windows was breathtaking, but Jaehua found his attention constantly drawn back to the human captain and her crew. "So, Captain Jaehua," Yunji began, her voice friendly but professional, "what would you like to know about us?" Jaehua exchanged glances with Ta-hyun and Yunseo before speaking. "To be honest, Captain Yunji, we're quite surprised by your level of technology. Our last reports on Earth suggested your species was still confined to your own solar system." Yunji smiled. "Ah, yes. We've made some rather rapid advancements in the past few decades. I suppose we're full of surprises." Tai-hyun leaned forward, his diplomatic instincts kicking in. "We're very interested in learning about these advancements. Would you be willing to share some of your technological knowledge with us?" Yunji's expression became more serious. "We're certainly open to sharing some information, but I hope you understand that we need to be cautious. We're new to the galactic stage and still learning about the political landscape." Jaehua nodded, respecting the human captain's prudence. "Of course, we wouldn't expect you to reveal any sensitive information. Perhaps we could start with a tour of your ship. Seeing your technology in action would be very informative." Yunji's face brightened. "That's an excellent idea. I'd be happy to show you around the Thunderbolt. It's one of our pride and joy in the Earth fleet." As they stood to begin the tour, Yunseo couldn't contain her excitement. "Captain Yunji, I'm particularly interested in your propulsion systems. The speed at which you arrived in this sector is remarkable. I'm sure our chief engineer would be delighted to discuss that with you." Yunji replied with a smile. "In fact, why don't we start our tour in the engine room?" As they walked through the corridors of the Thunderbolt, Jaehua was struck by the efficiency of the ship's design. Every panel, every station seemed to serve a purpose, with no wasted space. They entered a vast chamber that hummed with energy. In the center stood a massive, glowing cylinder that pulsed with an otherworldly light. "This is our main reactor," Yunji explained. "It's a fusion drive, but we've managed to stabilize the reaction using a gravity containment field." Yunseo's eyes were wide with wonder. "Incredible. We've been trying to achieve stable fusion for centuries. How did you manage it?" A human engineer stepped forward. "It was a breakthrough in particle physics," he explained. "We discovered a way to manipulate subatomic particles that allowed us to control the fusion reaction more precisely." As the engineers delved into a technical discussion, Jaehua noticed Ta-hyun looking thoughtful. "Is something wrong?" he asked quietly. Ta-hyun shook his head. "Not wrong, exactly. But I can't help wondering. If they've advanced this far in propulsion technology, what else have they achieved? And how will this affect the balance of power in the galaxy?" Jaehua nodded, understanding his colleague's concerns. The humans' rapid advancement could indeed shift the delicate political landscape they were used to. Their tour continued, each new area of the ship revealing more surprises. The weapons systems were unlike anything they had seen before, utilizing energy beams that could apparently pierce any known shielding. The medical bay was equally impressive, with devices that could heal injuries and cure diseases that plague many species in the galaxy. As they reached the bridge, Yunji turned to her guests with a proud smile. "And this is where we control it all. Our navigation systems can plot courses through space with pinpoint accuracy, allowing us to make jumps that would be considered impossible by many standards." Jaehua looked around the bridge, noting the advanced holographic displays and the confident postures of the human crew. He realized that everything he thought he knew about humanity's place in the galaxy had been wrong. As the tour came to an end, Yunji led them back to the meeting room. "I hope this has been informative for you," she said. "We're eager to learn from the Galactic Command as well. Perhaps we could arrange a cultural exchange." Jaehua nodded, his mind racing with the implications of everything he had seen. Yes, I think that would be an excellent idea. There's clearly much we can learn from each other. As they prepared to return to the Starfire, HFY knew that his report to Galactic Command would change everything. Humanity was not just a new player on the galactic stage. They were a force to be reckoned with. The galaxy, it seemed, was about to enter a new era, and humanity was leading the charge. As Captain HFY and his team continued their tour of the Thunderbolt, they found themselves in a large, dimly lit room. The walls were lined with holographic displays showing various parts of the ship and the surrounding space. "This is our tactical center," Captain Yunji explained, her voice filled with pride. "From here, we can coordinate all of our ship's systems during battle or complex maneuvers." Yoon Seo's eyes widened as she looked at the displays. "The level of detail is amazing," she said. "Our systems can't even detect half of what you're showing here." Yunji nodded. "Our sensors are quite advanced. We can detect ships and anomalies from several light years away." HFY felt a chill run down his spine. If what Yunji said was true, the humans could see Galactic Command ships long before they were detected in return. The tactical advantages of such technology were enormous. Their next stop was the weapons control room. Here, several human crew members sat at consoles, monitoring various systems. "Our main weapons are plasma-based," Yunji said. "They can adjust their output based on the target, allowing us to disable ships without destroying them if needed." Tae-hyun, ever the diplomat, spoke up. "That's quite impressive. It shows a level of restraint that many species lack." Yunji smiled. "We believe in minimizing casualties whenever possible. War is sometimes necessary, but it should always be a last resort." As they moved on, HFY couldn't help but notice the looks of awe on his team's faces. Even Tae-hyun, usually so composed, seemed overwhelmed by what they were seeing. Their tour led them to a massive hangar bay. Inside were several smaller ships, each sleek and deadly looking. "These are our fighter craft," Yunji explained. "They're capable of both atmospheric and space flight, and can operate independently for several days if needed." Yoon Seo approached one of the fighters, her hand hovering over its smooth surface. "The material. I've never seen anything like it," she said. "It's a nanocomposite we developed," Yunji replied. "It's lighter and stronger than any conventional metal and can even repair minor damage on its own." HFY shook his head in disbelief. Every new piece of information seemed to widen the technological gap between humans and the rest of the galaxy. As they left the hangar, Yunji led them to a small circular room. "This is something special," she said with a smile. "It's our quantum communications array." The room was filled with a soft, pulsing light. In the center was a device that seemed to shimmer in and out of existence. "With this, we can communicate instantly across any distance," Yunji explained. "It uses quantum entanglement to send and receive messages without any delay." Tae-hyun gasped. "Instant communication across the galaxy. That would change everything." Yunji nodded. "It has certainly made coordinating our exploration efforts much easier." As they made their way back to the main deck, HFY's mind was reeling. The implications of what they had seen were staggering. Humanity wasn't just technologically advanced. They were leagues ahead of the Galactic Command in nearly every area. "Captain Yunji," HFY said as they walked, "I must admit, we're all quite overwhelmed by what we've seen. Your technology is far beyond anything we expected." Yunji's expression softened. "I understand. It must be quite a shock. We've been so focused on advancing our technology that we sometimes forget how it might appear to others." They reached the main deck, where the rest of the human crew was going about their duties. HFY watched them, noting their efficiency and the ease with which they operated their advanced systems. "Captain HFY," Yunji said, turning to face him, "I hope this tour hasn't been too intimidating. Our goal isn't to threaten or dominate, but to explore and learn. We're eager to work with the Galactic Command and other species. Jae-hwa nodded slowly. I believe you, Captain Yunji. But I must be honest. The level of technology you possess will likely cause concern among some members of the Galactic Command. Yunji's face grew serious. I understand. We're prepared for that possibility. But we hope that through open dialogue and cooperation, we can ease those concerns and work together for the betterment of all species in the galaxy. As Jae-hwa and his team prepared to return to their ship, he couldn't help but feel that they were standing at the dawn of a new era. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same again. After the tour of the Thunderbolt, Captain Yunji invited the Galactic Command team to a special room for a cultural exchange. The room was filled with holographic displays showing images of Earth and its history. As they entered, Ta-Hyun's eyes widened. This is remarkable, he said, looking at a 3D model of Earth spinning slowly in the center of the room. Captain Yunji smiled. We thought it would be good to share a bit about our home world and our history. Please, feel free to ask any questions. Jae-hwa stepped forward, his curiosity piqued. Your technology is incredibly advanced. How did your species progress so quickly? Yunji's face grew serious. Our history is complicated. For a long time, we were divided. We had many wars and conflicts. The holographic display changed, showing scenes of battles and destruction. The Galactic Command team watched in shock as images of World War I flashed before their eyes. This was one of our largest conflicts, Yunji explained. It involved most of the world and led to terrible destruction. But it also pushed our technology forward at an incredible pace. Yun-seo frowned. You advanced through war. Yunji nodded. Partly, yes. But it wasn't just war. After this conflict, we realized we needed to work together. We started focusing on science and exploration. The display changed again, showing the first moon landing. Jae-hwa watched in awe as a human in a bulky suit stepped onto the gray surface. This was a turning point for us, Yunji said. We had reached another world. It made us realize how vast the universe was and how much we had yet to explore. Ta-Hyun stepped closer to the display. But this technology seems primitive compared to what you have now. Yunji laughed. It was, but it was a start. From there, we pushed ourselves harder. We established colonies on our moon and on Mars. We developed new energy sources, new materials. The display showed a series of technological advancements. Solar panels covering vast deserts, gleaming cities rising from barren landscapes, ships lifting off from Martian soil. And then, Yunji continued, we had our greatest breakthrough. We discovered how to manipulate gravity itself. The hologram showed a strange device, pulsing with energy. This changed everything. Suddenly, the stars were within our reach. Jae-hwa shook his head in amazement. All this in just a few centuries. It's incredible. Yunji nodded. We're a young species compared to many in the galaxy, but we're eager to learn and explore. The display changed again, this time showing diverse groups of humans working together, building ships, and launching into space. We've learned from our past, Yunji said. We know the dangers of division and conflict. That's why we're so keen on peaceful contact with other species. Ta-Hyun spoke up. But surely not all humans agree on this. In our experience, species often have different factions with different goals. Yunji's smile faded a bit. You're right. We're not perfect. We still have disagreements and conflicts, but we've learned to work through them, for the most part. Our venture into space has united us in many ways. Jae-hwa nodded thoughtfully. It's an inspiring story. But I must ask, with your level of technology, what do you hope to gain from contact with the Galactic Command? Surely there's little we could offer you. Yunji's eyes lit up. Oh, but there's so much. We may have advanced technology, but we're new to the galactic community. There's so much we can learn from your history, your cultures, Your experiences with other species. She gestured to the room around them. Technology isn't everything. We want to learn, to understand, to become part of something greater than ourselves. As the cultural exchange continued, HFY found himself reassessing his view of humanity. They were not just a technologically advanced species, but a complex and fascinating culture with much to offer. He realized that the galaxy was about to change in ways he couldn't even imagine. The arrival of humanity on the galactic stage wasn't just a shift in power. It was the beginning of a new era of exploration, learning, and cooperation. As he looked at his team, he could see the same realization dawning on their faces. The future, it seemed, was going to be very interesting indeed. After the cultural exchange, Captain HFY and his team returned to their ship, the Starfire. Their minds were buzzing with everything they had learned about humanity and their advanced technology. As soon as they were back on board, HFY called an emergency meeting with his senior staff. They gathered in the Starfire's conference room, their faces showing a mix of excitement and concern. "All right," HFY began, looking around at his team. "We need to discuss what we've learned and decide on our next steps. This is bigger than anything we've ever encountered before." Seo, the engineer, spoke up first. "Their technology is incredible, Captain. That gravity manipulation device alone could revolutionize space travel for the entire galaxy." Taehyun nodded in agreement. "And their cultural development is fascinating. To advance so quickly, and to unite their planet despite their history of conflicts, it's remarkable." HFY listened to their comments, his brow furrowed in thought. "You're both right. But we need to consider the larger implications. How will the Galactic Command react to this news?" The room fell silent for a moment. Then, Sung-ho, the first officer, spoke up. "Sir, with all due respect, this could be seen as a threat. A species with technology far beyond our own, suddenly appearing on the galactic stage. Many will be frightened." HFY sighed. He had been thinking the same thing. "You're right, Sung-ho. But we need to be careful how we present this information. The last thing we want is to start a conflict with the humans. Maybe we should focus on their peaceful intentions," Taehyun suggested. "They seemed genuinely interested in cooperation and learning from other species." Seo nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, and think of the benefits if they're willing to share some of their technology. It could advance the entire galaxy by centuries." HFY held up a hand to quiet the excited chatter. "These are all good points, but we need to be realistic. The Galactic Command will want to know about their military capabilities as well." He turned to his tactical officer, Minji. "What's your assessment of their battleship?" Minji's face was serious as she replied. "Honestly, sir, it outclasses anything in our fleet. Their weapons, their defenses, their sensors. If it came to a fight, we wouldn't stand a chance." A tense silence fell over the room. The implications of Minji's words were clear to everyone. After a moment, HFY spoke again. "All right. Here's what we're going to do. I'll prepare a report for Galactic Command. We'll present the facts as we've observed them, emphasizing the humans' peaceful intentions and the potential benefits of an alliance." He looked around the room, making eye contact with each of his officers. "But we'll also be clear about their military capabilities. The command needs to understand the full picture." Taehyun raised a hand. "Captain, what about the other species in the galaxy? How do you think they'll react when this news spreads?" HFY frowned. It was a good question, and one that worried him. "That's harder to predict. Some may see the humans as potential allies. Others might view them as a threat. We'll need to be prepared for various reactions." He stood up, signaling the end of the meeting. "For now, our priority is to report back to Galactic Command. They'll decide on the next steps. But I want all of you to start thinking about recommendations. How can we best approach this situation? How can we ensure peace and cooperation rather than conflict?" As the officers filed out of the room, HFY remained behind, staring out at the stars. The human ship, Thunderbolt, was still visible in the distance, its sleek form a stark contrast to the familiar shapes of Galactic Command vessels. He couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. The galaxy as they knew it was on the brink of a new era. Whether that era would be one of unprecedented progress and cooperation, or one of conflict and fear, remained to be seen. But one thing was certain: humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same again. 3 months had passed since Captain JHY's encounter with the human battleship Thunderbolt. The news of humanity's advanced technology and sudden appearance on the galactic stage had spread like wildfire throughout the Galactic Command. Now, JHY found himself on Centauri Prime, the central planet of the Galactic Command. He stood in a vast, circular chamber filled with representatives from hundreds of different species. The air buzzed with excitement and tension. At the center of the chamber, a delegation of humans was preparing to address the gathered representatives. Captain Yunji stood among them, her presence commanding attention. The head of the Galactic Command, a tall, blue-skinned being named Zortak, raised his hands for silence. "Esteemed representatives," he began, his voice echoing through the chamber, "we are gathered here today to welcome a new species to our galactic community. The humans of Earth have come forward, seeking alliance and cooperation." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. JHY could see a mix of curiosity, excitement, and fear on the faces around him. Zortak continued, "We have verified their technological capabilities, and they are indeed impressive. But more than that, they have shown a genuine desire for peaceful coexistence and mutual growth." He gestured to the human delegation. "I now invite Captain Yunji of Earth to address the assembly." Yunji stepped forward, her eyes scanning the diverse crowd before her. "Greetings, representatives of the galaxy," she began, her voice clear and confident. "We come before you not as conquerors, but as explorers and learners. Earth has much to offer, but we also have much to learn from all of you." She went on to outline humanity's proposal for alliance and knowledge sharing. Their advanced technology in areas like energy production, space travel, and medicine would be shared with all members of the Galactic Command. In return, they sought to learn about the history, cultures, and unique knowledge of other species. "We believe that together, we can achieve far more than any of us could alone," Yunji concluded. "Let us build a future of peace, progress, and shared discovery." As Yunji finished speaking, the chamber erupted into discussion. Some representatives cheered, while others argued heatedly with their neighbors. JHY watched it all, remembering his first encounter with the Thunderbolt. He had been awed and a little frightened then. Now he felt a sense of hope and excitement for the future. Zortak called for order, and gradually the noise died down. "We will now open the floor for questions and discussion," he announced. For hours, representatives from various species came forward. Some expressed enthusiasm for the alliance, eager to benefit from human technology. Others voiced concerns about the balance of power in the galaxy. Through it all, the human delegation remained patient and open, answering questions and addressing concerns. Yunji's sincerity and willingness to listen seemed to win over many of the skeptics. As the session neared its end, Zortak called for a vote on whether to accept humanity into the Galactic Command and proceed with the proposed alliance. JHY held his breath as the votes were tallied. Finally, Zortak announced the results. "By a clear majority," he said, his voice ringing out, "the Assembly has voted to welcome humanity into the Galactic Command and to accept their proposal for alliance and knowledge sharing." The chamber erupted in cheers. JHY found himself applauding along with the others, a smile on his face. As the formal proceedings concluded, representatives began to mingle, many approaching the human delegation with questions and congratulations. JHY made his way through the crowd to Captain Yunji. "Congratulations," he said, extending his hand in the human manner of greeting. Yunji smiled warmly as she shook his hand. "Thank you, Captain JHY. And thank you for giving us a chance that first day. Without your open-mindedness, we might not be here today." Jaehwa nodded. I have a feeling this is just the beginning of a new era for all of us. As they looked out over the diverse crowd of galactic representatives, now chatting excitedly with the human delegation, both captains knew that the galaxy would never be the same. A new chapter in galactic history had begun, full of promise and potential. The future, it seemed, was bright indeed.